Back in my time, horror movies were king, but studios overdone them. Too many sequels, franchises, people gave up. Simply, but in the 1990s, one man just bring that all up with one smart idea borrowed from a screenwriter. We'll get back to this. And now we're in the seventh movie of that franchise 30 plus years later, and I'm wondering, is it worth it to revisit the original? Today, on Why You Should Watch or Rewatch, let's dive into Scream, the original from Wes Craven. Yes, Scream! We are back in 1996. Now we have the seventh movie of the franchise in theater right now. Everybody's raving about the sequel. You got reviews. I'm not gonna dive into this. I pretty much quit after the first one. I saw all the sequels, but the first one is super important to me. In 1996, it changed the whole game. And to be frank, this essay slash video could be entirely about the first 12 minutes of the movie. The intro scene basically changed the game, changed the genre, saved Wes Craven's career, even though he didn't need it to be saved, but it brought him back to the spotlight where he belongs, and it gave new life to, I don't know, accessible horror movies for teenagers, for young adults, and it carried on for many, many, many years. And now we are in the meta sequel universe and the requel and the remake, and Scream is surviving somehow because the original is so strong that you can forget about the rest and just dive back into this one. And trust me, it is very much worth your time. Before we dive into the intro and everything, let's go back to the movie because it was written by Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson was not a known commodity back then, and Wes Craven directed this after this was passed around Hollywood and after he made the New Nightmare, the entry in the Freddy saga, where he was trying to do a meta horror movie in 1994. The public wasn't really there. It's worth a rewatch though. The Freddy meta universe is kind of interesting, but it gave an idea for Wes Craven to do something a little bit more meta. And here comes the script from Kevin Williamson with Scream, where we have a movie that it's aware it's a movie, but it's also aware that we know it's a movie. And we've seen horror movies before, so it plays with our expectation. Also, throw us on on a loop with a lot of swerves. But the original Scream, the idea of it, the execution, the timing, the casting, everything, when you look back 30 years later, it's pretty much a perfect storm. And it all starts in the beginning, like I said, the intro scene with Drew Barrymore on the phone. She's talking to we don't know who, some mysterious man, and pretty much all the beats of the movie are told within the first 12 minutes, and it starts with one key phrase, the most important phrase in the movie, and it's the killer on the phone that says, "I want to see what your insides look like." When you first hear this in theater, or if you watched it on DVD later, you assume, okay, you want to rip her open and just murder her right here and then and see the inside of her body. So it's gory, it's very frontal. Like, it is what it is. But if you listen carefully, "I want to see what your inside looks like," you can take that sentence and apply it to the movie itself. I want to see the inside of the movie, how the movie works, how the beat of the story works, so that I can surprise you by putting element that you are not expecting. By looking at the inside like a mechanic who's going to open your car and just understands how it works, by understanding the mechanic of the movie, of the horror genre, and every other movie before, this one surprises you and wants to change things up. This is a great way to introduce it because it flows in the rhythm of the story. You don't really notice it when you first watch it, but after that, you think and you think and you think, and it strikes you. I want to see what your inside looks like is a key to understand the movie. Not only that, but right at the beginning, the killer also says that he wants to know who he's looking at. Again, we assume he's looking at the girl on the phone, Drew Barrymore, because he wants to kill her. So there's a mystery building up. But I want to see who I'm looking at when you take a step back as the movie viewer. I want to see if I'm watching the main character of my story, the first victim, the real focal point, or just a little punch to throw you off your senses and then start the story. This is very, very clever because it's a 12-minute scenes. This happens around the second or third minute, and you assume Drew Barrymore back then was the lead of the movie. She was on the poster. She was super famous back then. She got fame in the 80s as a child actor in E.T. and many more movies. So when you put Drew Barrymore in this, front and center, you expect her to carry the movie to a certain point. Even if you expect a twist like in Psycho from Alfred Hitchcock, Janet Leigh dies like at the halfway point of the movie, not in the first 10 minutes. So when the killer says, I want to know who I'm looking at, he's telling us, who are you looking at? And this throws you off. And I love how this movie plays with your expectation. And after that, when you rewatch it, it's all very subtle. Those are not obvious clues like you should have known. It's just rewarding when you rewatch. It was there all along. And it's the same with the mystery. Speaking of the mystery of the movie, I'm not going to spoil it to you. It's 30 years now. There's two killers in Scream. This swerve back then was completely unexpected. Especially, we came like in a time in the 80s, there was one killer, one serial killer stalking their prey. The Jason, the Michael Myers, the Freddy Krueger. Wes Craven obviously knows Freddy Krueger. He's the man behind the movie. But we were expecting this, a faceless killer or just one person picking off young teenagers in that case. But now we have two teenagers disguising within the group, and they are the true killer in the movie. This not only was a great twist, it was the scariest thing of them all, because now you're not afraid of a stranger, like the stranger danger thing they said in the 1980s, and you don't have to lock your door or just surround yourself with friends and family. The problem is now friends and family can also be the foe, and it messes you up afterward. This movie is very clever. Yeah, it's violent and it's gory and the murders are very graphic, but this part of it, like your lover can be your killer and the killer can have a partner that is also your friend, it spins around you. And that's the beauty of Scream, and that's the beauty of that screenplay from Kevin Williamson. Yeah, it was a trilogy and there was a lot of moving parts into this, but I kind of don't want to talk about the second and the third one, because the first one, from start to finish, is just a great story, a great movie, and it should have ended there. There was no point carrying this through. There was no point digging further into Sidney Prescott's mother and all the backstory. This, as a week in hell in the life of these teenagers, was perfect as it was. 7th movie later, it's really obvious. This is the strong movie. Everything else is entertaining, and they're coming off a strong base, so they are kind of good. But this one is not kind of good. It's really great. So that's the thing when you talk about Scream. I have nothing bad to say about it. They killed the Fonz. If you watched Happy Days in the 70s, I'm too young for this, but I saw reruns and I saw jokes about this. They killed a popular TV figure from the past. They killed a child actor from my past. They build up new actresses with Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox, who was famous with Friends. At the time, it was the 3rd season, but she was cast as the bitch of the movie. So it's a completely different role. They also sprung up David Arquette, who was basically unknown at the time. And they also tried to cast the new Johnny Depp as the killer in here. Didn't work, but Matthew Lillard stuck around and got a great career out of this. So this movie created a lot of career, a lot of ripples around it. I have nothing negative to say, except that, I don't know, it should have stayed as it was because Wes Craven, without being the writer here, created something beautiful. And that's the sensitive side of Craven that brought that script to life, because we know that Wes Craven didn't want to do only horror movies, even though he was responsible for starting it all, not starting it all, but he contributed in the 70s with The Hills Have Eyes and The Last House on the Left. And then he contributed to the Psycho Killer thing with Freddy Krueger in the 80s. And he also pretty much gave New Line Cinema life, because that producer was pretty much unexistent before Freddy. That's why we call it the house that Freddy built, by the way. And after that, he launched another era of horror with Scream. And in between, he created a lot of movies, and not all of them are horrors. Some of them are very fun, like The People Under the Stairs. Kind of horror anyway, it's a thriller. Very entertaining. Shocker was a weird movie, but it was fun. And Wes Craven also did some romantic stuff. So he had that sensitive side, and he died in 2015. So rest in peace, Wes Craven. He's not there anymore to see how popular Scream still is. But without that movie, I'm not sure Wes Craven comes back to the spotlight. I'm not sure if Empire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy will be remembered at all without Scream and without people going back to Wes Craven's career. Because let's face it, after Freddy, it was when the horror genre died, Wes Craven pretty much went along for the ride, and that's sad. It's the same thing with Robert Englund, the actor that played Freddy. He played a lot of other roles, but Freddy stuck with him, and now he's just trying to get out of that shadow, and it's kind of hard. And Scream now casts a big shadow, and with all the sequels, it's really hard to get out of that shadow, but it's very fun to go back and watch it. So that's basically my piece. Why you should watch or rewatch Scream now, 30 years later? That first 12 minutes. Just that. If you don't have the time to watch the whole movie, just watch the first 12 minutes. This is a perfect movie in itself, and everything else after is just the cherry on top. It's a big cherry with a lot of whipped cream, but that 12 minutes alone, it's probably the best opening scene in horror movies, like, ever. I don't want to go overboard here, but I don't see what could be considered better because of the length, the depth of it, everything that it says, everything that it means, and everything that it spawned after. That first 12 minutes is a piece of art in itself, and the movie attached to it is great also. So just go back. Like, if you don't want to go watch the sequels in theater, it's all fine. If you don't have to watch all of this, but just go back and watch the first one. It still holds up today, even though cell phones would have pretty much ruined their day. But it was another time. It was another place. And it was the mid-90s. What a great time it was for horror movies when you think back about it. So yeah, just go back and watch Scream, and I hope I'll see you soon on the channel for another movie. I don't know what it is yet, but I will come back for something else in a little while. Ciao.